Hello, this is Gretchen, the Verdant Crafter. Today I'm going to be showing you 10 cards I made using the Simon Says Stamp 2018 October card kit called Sketched Flowers. This card kit was a blast to use. It had so many beautiful materials in it. I love the stamp set that came in it, and it's a gorgeous 6x8 stamp set. First up is the Ranger Alcohol Lift ink pad. I already had one, so I wasn't too excited about that. But it did push me to use it because I'd gotten it, I'd used it once, and then I put it away. There were 3 different colors of alcohol inks: Sunshine Yellow, Stream, and Sunset Orange. These are gorgeous and so fallish colors. Of course, there's a piece of candy, and there were 3 exclusive Gina K Designs foil cards. So these have designs printed with toner that you can put through your laminator to foil. There were 3 pieces of alcohol Yupo cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. I believe they just started carrying this. There was, and it was 86-pound cover Yupo white paper. There were 3 pieces of cardstock, bright yellow, peacock, and burnt orange, 100 pounds from Simon Says Stamp. There was a 6x8 stamp set called Sketched Flowers. I love this stamp set. It's very sketchy and it's got wonderful sentiments. And of course, there were the foils. Now, I think because I didn't renew or pay mine right away, I was one of the last people to get the kit. And when I got the kit, they had substituted different colors of foil for me. So I only got foil in Sweet Mango. So separately, I went and purchased almost all of the other colors of foil that came in this kit. The only one I didn't get was Jelly Bean from Gina K Designs. And I love the foils, especially the fancy foils, which sort of have holographic bits in it. So here I have a bunch of the Yupo paper, and I did cut it in half, so it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And I've put different colors of alcohol ink down. So I did pull in a few other colors, but mostly I stuck with the Stream, the Sunshine Yellow, and the Sweet Orange. Here, I have one piece that I'm drying just a little bit. I want it to have sticky alcohol ink residue left because that is one of the problems with alcohol ink. Sometimes when it builds up a lot in an area, it becomes sticky. Here I'm putting down a piece of foil in Radiant Red. I'm rubbing that in very well, and I'm only using my hand because if I use a bone folder, I will get marks. You can see here wherever it was sticky, it picked up the foil and it's just coated it. So I do this a couple different times with a couple different pieces of Yupo, and I do get some messy foil, which is going to be a problem later. Here I've just sprinkled on a whole bunch of poppy flower alcohol ink, which did not come in the kit, but it was a lovely red, and I really wanted more of a red. I like the red of autumn. Orange is great, yellow is great, but I prefer red, which is why I'm pulling more of that in. I'm also pulling in, well, I'm keeping using the Sunshine Yellow because that is yellow, and where yellow and red mix, it makes orange. This is just a little ceramic bowl. I've put a little bit of 99% isopropyl alcohol, and I've sprinkled some onto my cardstock. Now I'm just sprinkling some of these colors on sort of diagonally, and I am going to come in with that paintbrush and the alcohol, and I'm going to just go back and forth to create sort of a stripy look. And there I'm splattering with alcohol. The wonderful part about alcohol is it keeps moving, so the design that you get part way is not the design that you end up with, but that's also the horrible part because it is an unpredictable medium. You're not exactly sure what you will get until you've already gotten it, and sometimes you keep working things and it changes and you don't like it, and other times, just because of the nature, it changes. Here I'm just creating lots of color, and you can see I have those wonderful beads going diagonally, which are going to dry sticky and pick up alcohol, pick up the foil very well. Of course, now you can see the longer it sits, the more those beads dilute. Here I have a piece of parchment paper, and it's literally parchment paper from my kitchen. And I've layered a couple pieces of foil over one of the designs from Gina K Designs. I'm putting that through, and if this is the one I'm thinking of, you are going to see that I was reusing some foil. I didn't check the back of the foil to make sure there was no alcohol ink. So I'm going to get a messy piece. Now with this, I did put it through twice just because I hadn't let it heat up for I'd let it heat up for about 15 minutes, but it should have heated up longer. And there you can see there's a bunch of alcohol ink residue on this card. So don't worry, I do have two different colors. So my sentiment is in red and the rest is in dandelion. I'm going to fix it later, sort of. Here I've layered different colors of foil over my sentiment and each of those leaves. I love the leaves. What can I say? I'm a New England girl. I love fall leaves. I love how the leaves change color. I love all of those different colors. I especially love maple leaves because I think they have the most brilliant colors. I have an inexpensive laminator that I purchased from Amazon. You can use really any laminator, and I know some people have had good luck using pressure and regular irons. So there I was using a Tombow sand eraser to remove some of the little bits of foil that had adhered where they shouldn't. Here I've put down my image, one of my panels, and I'm going to stamp using the alcohol lift ink. I'm going to stamp down and I'm going to press very firmly. And I pressed extra firmly because this is a very large image and it has lots of little details. I wanted to make sure that I got all those details. I also left it there for a moment to make sure the ink had a chance to transfer. Now I'm putting down a piece of regular 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 80-pound cardstock from Nina in Solar White, I think, and I'm stamping down my image. Now this is pretty light, so I'm going to actually end up stamping it twice, but before I can do that, I'm using my Hero Art stamp cleaner and I'm cleaning off my stamp. Even though I do this and I take extra care with it, I didn't clean it off enough. So there is a little bit of pink on my alcohol lift ink pad, which is totally my fault. Here, I'm stamping again using the alcohol lift ink, and I haven't cleaned off my background image yet, so I'm double layering this alcohol lift ink, so it really has a chance to sink into the pigments that are there. But of course, it's Yupo paper, so it's not sinking into the paper. And here I'm just stamping again. Because I layered this twice, the colors are darker. Because I used my Misty, they're all in the same place, and it's just wonderful. Here I'm using a paper towel to dab. I'm dabbing everywhere first, and I'm always using a new or a clean section of the paper towel. Once I've done that, I'm coming back in and I'm rubbing off any excess. Here I'm using a generous dusting of anti-static powder from my anti-static powder embossing magic bag, and I'm using Versamark ink to stamp down this diagonal beautiful little flower set. I'm going to use antique gold embossing powder from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to very, very, very carefully emboss it using my embossing gun. I'm going very carefully because it is a plastic paper, which means that it will warp. I like to use heavyweight Yupo cardstock, and I will do that later on when I emboss, because the lighter weight it is, the more it will warp and bend. You can see here that it's warped. It's curled up on one end and it's warped a little bit down in the middle. So I'm going to, in the end, coat the entire background with tape, double-sided score tape. Here I've taken an alcohol blender pen from Tim Holtz or from Ranger, and I'm lifting up color from inside the design and transferring it onto another piece of cardstock where I've white heat or clear gold heat embossed. There we go. The same image. I'm just lifting up the color everywhere and coloring it all in. One of the things that I really liked doing throughout this card kit was doing this technique either with the alcohol pen or with a brush and alcohol ink, or a brush and alcohol ink. So here you can see that I have my whole thing, all those flowers painted yellow, orange, and now I'm coming in with sort of a scrap where I was experimenting with colors. And this is not in the video because some of these I experimented with previously and I just keep my scraps. And I'm putting purple down on that main flower that looks a little bit like a magnolia. Here you can see I have covered the back of this with score tape. I'm positioning it about 1/8 of an inch from each corner with that wide stripe on the edge, which I'm going to cut off. And then I'm going to position it onto my A2 card base. I'm going to use glue, I believe. No, I'm going to use foam tape to pop it up a little. And I'm going to stamp and heat emboss my sentiment on the same color of cardstock, which is burnt orange from Simon Says Stamp, using the antique gold Simon Says Stamp embossing powder. I'm going to also come in with the Hero Arts lacquer pen, which obviously is from Hero Arts and creates these beautiful domes that are clear. You could also use glossy accents or Nouveau glaze, or I think Nouveau Morning Dew, which is clear drops. I simply have this on my desk and I really like how it looks. Now, the other thing to note throughout this video, you'll see occasionally I have trouble with glue. I think that's not about the glue and the fact that my desk is positioned right over a heat vent. So the glue that's positioned there gets hot or warmer than it should, and I think that's causing it to coagulate. Whereas if it was left in a normal situation where you don't have a hot spot, it would be just fine. Moving on to card number 2. If I were to redo card number 2, I would not use Versamark ink, I would use VersaFine ink. I also chose to use Brutus Monroe's Raven embossing powder. I specifically chose to use his embossing powder because I know that it doesn't react or dissolve with alcohol. What I didn't think was, even though I was using this embossing powder, some of the VersaFine ink was still outside or not embossed. So when I used the alcohol on it, specifically when I used the alcohol blender brush, I picked up some of that black. Right there in the corner, I've let dry all the colors of alcohol ink that came in this kit, and those are the 2 pieces that I embossed. You can see that one was also a little bit messy, which is why I did it again. And this is where I pulled in my heavyweight Yupo cardstock, which didn't come in the kit. That corner has the Sunshine Yellow. On the corner next to it, it has the Sunset Orange. I also have the Poppy Field, which didn't come in the kit, and the Stream, which didn't come in the kit. Here you can see that I've switched to using a paintbrush and alcohol. I think that was gentler on the embossing, so I didn't have as much bleeding, which was bothering me. You can also see that whenever I'm doing this, I either have a paper towel or I have a scratch piece of paper to sort of clean my brush off on. I did get very light colors when I did this, but they were lighter than alcohol ink would be straight. They were very soft and dreamy. And here I'm coming in with the Stream and I'm creating a very fine gradient along the edge of the flowers. So it doesn't have them just sitting on the piece of paper. They have some sort of ground. This was fun. I liked doing it. It was a little persnickety, but no more persnickety than using regular watercolors, except I was limited by the colors I had, more so than watercolor, because I have a lot of watercolor. To be fair, I've been collecting it most of my life, so I have a lot of watercolor. Here I'm adding some splatters with bright colors, and here I decided to go sort of more springy rather than fallish. And it's just fun and pretty and bright. I do like this card, and I would definitely make more of these types of cards. Okay. Another great thing about using alcohol ink is it does dry very quickly, so you don't have to wait. But I also think it's a little harder to get a gradient when you're painting it in. Here I'm using some Gina K Connect glue, and again, it's clogged. I think that's because of where my desk is positioned, not because of the glue. So here I'm coming in with some glue that was not on my desk, and this is the Nouveau Deluxe Adhesive. I just got this, and I got it this summer, but I haven't used it very much. I am gluing down a piece of the bright yellow cardstock onto an A2 card base. All of my card bases are top folding. just because I seem to like that. And I like that you can prop it open and it doesn't hide the card. I'm cutting a little bit of the card off, about 1/4 of an inch on each side, so it will have a yellow border. And then I'm going to use, I believe, some score tape to glue it down. I chose to use score tape mostly with the Yupo paper because it is a non-porous paper, and here I'm using glue. And because it's non-porous, it will take glue a little bit longer to dry. But the good part about it being non-porous is you won't get little bubbles where glue might have bunched up or where the paper buckled because the glue is wet. And I believe I'm going to come in with my Hero Arts lacquer pen. I do have 2 pictures right after this that show you both cards that I made. And in fact, 3 times throughout this section or throughout this video, I made 2 cards that were pretty much identical, but slightly different. I do like doing that because then you get multiple cards, and I like to try and give up my cards. I'm not very good at it, but I do like to do it. And I specifically like giving up fall cards because I love making Thanksgiving cards and giving those to people. Card number 3, I am coming in with score tape and I'm going around the edge to create a gold border. Originally, I wanted to use one of my glue pens, but turns out I hadn't used those for like a year, so they dried out. Go figure. Here's a piece of gold foil, or rather this is the dandelion or daffodil. I'm coming in and just making sure it's pressed in really nicely, and I'm covering up any of the little holes where the gold foil didn't adhere well. Now I'm gluing down this card that was foiled from Gina K Designs. The top is foiled, or the flower is foiled with the dandelion, and the bottom is foiled with the radiant red. I really love the radiant red, it's so pretty. Here I'm just using my trimmer to trim off little pieces of this, so I'm left with about 1/8 of an inch of a border of gold foil around the edge. I am also going to come in, and I don't show you this, with the gold foil and or the daffodil foil, and press it right around the edges to make sure that there's no adhesive showing or feelable. I'm gluing this down onto a piece of burnt orange cardstock, which has had 1/4 of an inch cut off each, well, the top and the side. So this will give it a nice white border when we put it onto an A2 card base. I love that this kit came with these foilable cards because I've never used those or any sort of toner sheets, except for once I purchased some solid toner sheets that I used. It was a great experience, and I love that it came with lots of different colors of foil, so you could really see what colors you liked and what colors you didn't like, or if you preferred certain colors. Here is my 4th card, and again, this is foiled. Each of the leaves is foiled with a different color, and my sentiment is foiled with a different color. I've layered that on some burnt orange cardstock, and I've cut it so there's about 1/8 of an inch border around the edge. Now I'm just going to pop that up with, or put it on with some score tape, I think. Oh no, I'm going to put 2 lines of score tape down, and then I'm going to peel up the backing on the score tape, 1 piece of score tape, and put one of the colors of foil down, then peel up the other and put the other color. So this is dazzling orange, and the other color, of course, is going to be the radiant red, which I love. Both of these colors have the gorgeous sort of holographic shapes in them, which is fantastic. I don't know how they do it, but I love it, and I wish all foil had that in it. I think it adds a lot of interest, and it's just gorgeous. Now, I'm not too worried about in the middle because I know I'm going to put this little panel with my leaves on it. I'm coming in with foam tape, and I'm going to pop that up right in the middle. This was a very simple card to make. It was very fast, and I would love to have dozens of these. You can see where my thumb was. There was a little overlap, so one color of foil got in a place I didn't want it, but that's okay. Card number 5 is all about using my mistake for the betterment of not ruining it. Here I'm using Distress Oxide inks, and I'm coming in with gathered twigs in the middle of those sunflowers, and here I'm just buffing it off with a piece of clean paper towel. Then I'm going to do my background with a mixture of tumbled glass and blueprint sketch, I believe, or maybe faded jeans. I'm not too worried about going over where the foil is because I know it will buff off very nicely where the foil is. And you can see right now there's a black stripe. There was a wrinkle in my foil, which meant that it didn't adhere there, and there is no foil, so it's just black toner you're seeing there. I'm also going to come in with evergreen bough or mowed lawn, I believe, at the bottom to create a little bit of depth. So I think this card would have been better very simply without any background in it, just the white and the foil. But I made a mistake, so I needed to fix it. And I did. Now, I wouldn't have made the mistake if I'd make sure I used a clean piece of foil, but I didn't. And you saw there I added a little bit of green around where the leaves are. When I buff this off, everything comes off the foil, so it becomes a very, very nice, clean, simple card. And it does. It looks really nice with that foil. The foil sort of pops up from the background because Distress Oxides have that chalky finish. Okay, so I have layered that onto an A2 card base, and I'm going to add some clear droplets with the Hero Arts lacquer pad. I generally do one large, one medium, and one small droplet. Then I pick it up and flick the back of it to make sure that everything settles down and evens out. Okay, so we are going to move right on to card number 6. Ignore that piece of scrap foil where I have the sunflowers. I wanted to use it, but I never actually used it. So here I have pieces of foil that I had originally used to foil the different leaves. And what's cut out is about 5 minutes of tearing my room apart to try and find the maple leaf, which I couldn't. So I've put this down onto a piece of paper, which happens to have a piece of score tape layered on it. Now I peel it off and I layer some other foil on top. So it's going to fill in the gaps wherever the foil was removed by the toner. I'm going to do this several times because I can keep doing it. I can create new shapes each time. Here you can, or there you could see it. And I'm going to create a bunch of different leaves. I think I created 5 or 6 leaves this way. After a while, it didn't quite fit anymore. There were too many gaps, but it still did look nice. Here I have a piece of vellum. It was 40 or 80 pound vellum, and I used alcohol inks on the front. I used a stitch die from MFT to cut out a shape, and I used glue around the edges. Here is my sentiment that I've heat embossed onto the burnt orange cardstock, and I added a strip of foil along the bottom. I'm going to attach 2 leaves. So I'm going to glue down one, the oak leaf, I believe, and then I'm going to use foam tape to attach the other one, which is a birch leaf. And that's where the botany degree in me comes out. Because my glue is clogged and I haven't dealt with it yet, I'm just using the Hero Arts lacquer pen as glue because it is, it can function as an adhesive. Just like Ranger's Glossy Accents can function like an adhesive. This is a very simple card, and I really like how the alcohol ink looks on the vellum. I sort of dripped it on and held it vertically and allowed it to drip down. Okay, card number 7 is very simple. I am going to stamp and heat emboss my sentiment with antique gold embossing powder from Simon Says Stamp, and then I'm going to put that onto a card base. I'm not sure what color card base. And that's Cobalt. He says hi. What he actually says is, there's a squirrel outside your window. I want the squirrel. Please let me go play with the squirrel. He does not get to go out and play with the squirrel. There, I've put some glue down, the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and I'm matting it onto, or putting it onto a white card base. I have glue on my glass mat, which will easily clean off with water, and I'm going to use foam tape to pop up each of these leaves. I'm putting my birch leaf, which I love the birch leaves, but they're normally yellow, not red, in the middle, and I'm going to flank it on either side by the oak leaf. And while I'm doing this voiceover, I'd like you to know that Cobalt would also like to go outside because now there are some sparrows outside the window, and he'd really like to play with them. He forgets that he's a scaredy cat, and he'll probably run away. But that's okay. Now, one of the things, well, I love this card, and I wish that I had been more thoughtful in how I chose the foil for the inside design. So for the veins and for the outside, I wasn't, and it turned out okay. I just wish I'd been more thoughtful because two of them have the same veins and the same colors. And there I added some of the droplets. Okay, moving on to card number 8. I have coated the back of this with score tape. It was very, very buckled because I had heat embossed it. And this is one that you saw at the start. I have the foil, the gold foil that I put on it. Or the radiant red foil that I put on it. Then I heat embossed it with antique gold embossing powder. This is Simon Says Stamps Yupo, so it's lighter weight. It's sort of a medium weight rather than lightweight. I backed it on a piece of 110-pound cardstock. Here is my first attempt using spray adhesive. I've put down a piece of 4 and a quarter by 8.5 cardstock. And I've sprayed it with adhesive. Now I'm putting foil onto it. And I thought I was just going to get a nice even layer of foil and everything would be covered. You can see there's a scratch in the foil where some came off or something else, and that was okay. I knew I would be covering that part up. But turns out, even though I had spray adhesive, it didn't really go everywhere. So rather than spray more on, I decided to just go with it. I cut a strip off my background, or my foreground now, and used foam tape to put that there. Now I'm using alcohol ink and the poppy fields to fill in the little gaps where the foil wasn't actually adhered. Now I'm popping my sentiment on. It's a flag and it's the burnt orange cardstock with just a little bit of foil at the very bottom. And you can see here, all I did was remove the color. I didn't add any color to the flowers. Card number 9 and 10 are sort of mirror images of each other. You can see these are cards that I created the image for earlier, where I used the alcohol lift ink. I'm stamping 2 different sentiments. So on this one, I don't remember what sentiment I stamped, and I'm going to heat emboss that. On the other one in the very middle, I stamp and heat emboss the happiest of birthdays to you. It's a large sentiment that really fills the space. I'm also adding some of the crystal droplets to this. What's your favorite type of cards to make? Mine is usually a Thanksgiving card or just like a thank you card because they're so useful, and I think it's nice for people to know that you're thankful for them, or, you know, I love when I know people are thankful for me. I like Halloween, but I always get carried away and it's the week of Halloween and I haven't made any cards. Easter is sort of, sometimes I like it and sometimes I don't. Christmas is nice. So here you can see is sort of the mirror image card. It's hard to see the heat embossing because it's the same hue as the other cards. And here are the bonus cards, 11 and 12. So these cards are the cards that I made. So I gold heat embossed the large image, and then I filled in using the alcohol ink pen and random pieces of Yupo that I'd colored. So one of them has been matted on the peacock cardstock, and the other is just going to be matted on a white card base, I believe. On the piece, well, you can see there's a sentiment. So it's going to be located directionally that way, and here I'm adding some droplets. These cards that I colored in took a while to do, but I think they're very effective, and I love how the gold heat embossing looks against those colors. This kit was so much fun to use. I do have lots left over, especially the foils, because I received 6 sheets of the sweet mango, and then I purchased all the other colors except for the jelly bean green. I also have, because I already had each of the alcohol ink colors, I still have pretty much full bottles of those. I still have a couple pieces of cardstock, and you know, I have the gorgeous stamp set. It's absolutely gorgeous. So there's the stamp set. There's the sweet mango. I don't show you the other foils I have. Those are all of the cardstock pieces that I have left over. I didn't use a lot of the bright yellow. Those are some of the pieces of Yupo paper that I colored that were from Simon Says Stamp, and of course the alcohol inks. These are the final cards. I hope that you were inspired. I know this video is very late, as the next Simon Says Stamp card kit has come out, which is gorgeous. I love the snarky sentiments in it. Because, even though I try, well, actually, I'm not snarky around my students. Mentally, I'm snarky. And it's fun. It's fun just to be a little snarky and think sassy things in your head, as long as you don't share them all the time, because it's always about your audience. Okay, thank you so much for watching. There are close-up photos at the end of this video. I hope that you were inspired. I know I didn't show you a lot of techniques, especially with the alcohol ink. I did that because I wanted to minimize the time on this video. It is really long already. And there are lots of other videos out there showing you how to do this. I love all of these cards. Please let me know which one's your favorite. It's always interesting to see if your favorite and my favorite match up. Tell me what you think of the kit. What did you enjoy about the video? Have you used this kit yet, or are you saving it? I know some people they don't have a laminator, so they've been hesitant about using the foil. I think one of the great things about this kit is it comes with the alcohol ink, so you can still use the foil. Or you can use double-sided adhesive, which I do a lot of. I think that's another great way to use your foil. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you were inspired. I hope that you have a great day, and bye.